So yeah, with the pandemic and everything, the tech stocks have actually risen to all-time highs. And also at the same time, we've seen like a huge uptick in IPOs and SPACs, especially for electric vehicle companies. Like, do you think there's maybe like a bubble or overvaluation in some of these tech or EV or electric vehicle names? And like, are you worried a little bit about the IPO market since usually like an increase in IPOs maybe signals a topping out?
No, I'm not, and I'll tell you why. I have over 50 private companies I'm an investor in across America, practically every state and every sector. I do everything from workout equipment to greeting cards to technology. I do DNA testing. I mean, there's just so many different businesses I'm in. And it's all been empowered by technology. When we had the beginning of the pandemic and retail basically shut down, my companies lost, significant amount of momentum because majority, or if you look at any mid-cap company, 50% of its revenue comes from retail, and that's a 50-cent dollar margin business, and then usually 40% with Amazon and 10% from their own website. That's the classic mix. And so when you lose 50% of your revenue, as happened in late March, they had to pivot. So they started buying Shopify licenses, they bought DocuSign licenses, they bought Microsoft standardization. They used Wix.com to enrich the experience on their websites. They went to logistics with Facebook Shop and Walmart. And so they created an alternative to retail distribution at 100 cents on the dollar margin when you're selling direct to your customer. And that happened right across the portfolio. And so the companies that empowered all that are the internet giants of the world. It's not just the FANGs. Some of the names I just rattled off, Wix.com, they're not all American companies. There's a global focus on e-commerce, and we're only in the third inning on that. I mean, these stocks, technology will continue to lead the market for probably the next 3 to 5 years. That's what I think. It's changing the entire economy and accommodating the fact that, we're in this horrible pandemic. Without technology, we would have really been screwed. But here we have a way to actually conduct business online, digitally, direct to our customers, and we are flourishing.
We're also looking at, so you guys talked about some of the smaller tech companies, but looking at, some of the larger companies, the tech giants, we have Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, Facebook. So if you look last year, they're all, even mid-2019 or early 2019, the valuations are well under at 1 trillion. Now we're seeing Microsoft, Apple, Amazon essentially at 2 trillion. So it sounds like you guys think this momentum could continue. Like, could we be seeing these $3 trillion companies, or are smaller tech names more attractive? Or what do you think about these big tech giants continuing their reign?
I prefer to own a broader portfolio than just the FANGs because this phenomenon is worldwide. It's not just North American. If you had said, the PE for Amazon is too high 10 years ago, you would have missed out on thousands of percent increase in value. So you don't necessarily value tech just on earnings. It's a factor, but sales growth is far more important. And so indexing, like an OGIG Connor mentioned, that's what I use. I own that. It's got over 70 names instead of just 4, including the FANGs.
And then we're looking at the tech giants getting so big, but China is sort of this first economy outside the US where it's like, do you start looking at that economy? China has some tech giants. Are these companies innovating? Are they copying? What are your thoughts on this? Is this sort of something investors should be looking at?
They used to copy. If you look 15 years ago, I wouldn't call it copying. I would call it theft. They would basically steal IP and copy it. And they'd still do a little bit of that. We're trying to fix that, obviously, in the trade wars. But people don't understand. China graduates 250,000 engineers a year, and they're not all stupid. There's some incredibly smart people working on technology there. We graduate about 68,000 domestically. So they're beating us in just terms of brain power coming into the market. And I'll give you an example. On 5G technology, their use of the bandwidth is far more efficient than ours, significantly. They can get farther distance and a much, much more efficient, maybe as much as 20% more data crammed into the same spectrum than we can. And so, the Huawei technology is coveted by many European countries, and yet I understand the political issue of it, but they're ahead of us on 5G and we're trying to catch up. So China is a very important player. Clearly, I do a lot of business there in terms of supply chain, and I would like to see a trade deal worked out where it's leveled. We level the playing field. I don't get access to their middle class market, and I have to give my IP to them. I don't appreciate that. They don't get treated the same here. So we've got to fix that. And, that's a different topic of discussion. But no question about it, they are a major player in technology.